The storm above the high canyons of Vareth shuddered with violet flashes as the human transport skimmer broke through the cloud layer. The skimmer's hull rattled, its battered frame growing as it descended toward the jagged valley below. Inside it stood a lone soldier named Rowan, tall for a human and wrapped in patched combat gear that had survived more battles than most of his unit ever witnessed. The mission ahead was simple in words, but perilous in reality. A distress call had been detected from deep within Vareth territory. The Vareth were not allies. They were not even neutral. For decades, they had maintained an uneasy standstill with humanity. Neither race liked the other much, but neither had chosen all-out war. The distress signal had come coded in an old emergency protocol used by civilians. Someone innocent was in danger. Rowan volunteered before anyone else could react. It was the sort of thing he always did, the sort of thing that earned him concern from his commanders and respect from his peers. There was no guarantee that the signal was genuine. It could have been bait or a trap or a malfunction. But Rowan understood something many soldiers often forgot. Civilians were not to blame for politics. If someone was in danger, he would act. The skimmer landed hard upon a stretch of cracked stone. Dust spiraled into the wind as its engine spun down. Rowan stepped out, gripping a compact rifle more for caution than aggression. Vareth landscapes were sharp and rugged. Towers of mineral-rich stone rose like great pillars. Strange blue moss clung to walls and glowed faintly beneath the overcast sky. The air smelled of metal and ozone. Somewhere far away, thunder rumbled. The distress beacon pulsed through his wrist device, guiding him toward a cluster of fallen structures that might once have been a shelter. He moved swiftly across the broken ground. The ruins were recent. Fresh fractures marked the structures. The scent of burned material still clung to the air. Something violent had struck the site. When Rowan edged closer, he spotted signs of a struggle. There were claw marks in the stone. Shredded vines dangled from collapsed beams. And at the center of it all came a sound that made him tighten his grip on his weapon. A cry, high-pitched and trembling. Not human, but unmistakably frightened. Rowan followed the sound behind a toppled archway. There, crouched between shattered rocks, was a small Vareth child. She had pale lavender skin and bright green eyes. Her limbs were long and slender, and along her back ran a ridge of soft frills that were pressed flat with fear. She was pinned under a piece of debris, too heavy for her to move. Rowan knelt immediately. "It is all right," he said in a calm voice. The child hid her face for a moment, peeking out in uncertainty. Rowan set his weapon aside and braced both hands on the slab. With a grunt of effort, he lifted it just enough to slide it away. The girl scrambled free, trembling, yet she did not run. She stared at him, chest unsteady with fast breaths. Her kind rarely saw humans this close. More rarely saw one willingly help them. A roar echoed from the cliffs above. Rowan reached for his weapon, just as a hulking beast leapt from a ridge. Its hide was dark and plated. Its jaws bristled with razor ridges. Vareth territory was crawling with such creatures. Rowan moved instinctively, sweeping the child behind him with one arm. The beast lunged. Rowan fired twice. Blue sparks burst across the air as the rounds hit armor. The creature staggered, but did not fall. It swiped at him. He dodged and fired again, aiming for softer joints. The creature crashed with a thud, limbs twitching. Rowan crouched and checked the child. "Are you injured?" She shook her head. Her frills unfolded a little, a sign of relief among her species. But before Rowan could decide how to contact her people, shadows shifted and armor glinted. A squad of Vareth royal guards emerged from the rocks, their weapons raised. He did not move. He did not reach for his rifle. The child rushed forward, and clung to one of the guards while pointing back at Rowan. Her gestures were frantic, but the guards understood. Their expressions changed at once. They lowered their weapons, and a larger figure approached from behind them. A tall Verith adorned in ceremonial armor of dark violet metal. Her presence made the air feel heavy, as though the stones themselves bent in respect. This was Queen Lyra, ruler of the Verith domains. Rowan had seen her only once on a broadcast. The thought that he stood in her shadow felt surreal. Lyra stepped forward with slow, deliberate grace. Her crown of braided iridescent fibers glowed faintly. She reached down and lifted her daughter into her arms. The girl clung to her, pointing again at Rowan with shaky urgency. Lyra's eyes followed the gesture. They fixed upon the human who had risked everything to save someone not of his species. Rowan stood respectfully, hands open at his sides. He waited for the queen to speak, though he had no idea if she would even acknowledge him. To his surprise, she stepped closer, stopping only a few paces away. "You protected her," Lyra said. Her voice carried a soft resonance, like stone touched by wind. "You placed yourself between danger and my child." Rowan nodded. She needed help. The queen regarded him with an expression he could not decipher. Verith emotions were subtle. Her tail flicked once behind her in what might have been contemplation. Then she turned to her guards. "Prepare the path to the citadel. He comes with us." Rowan blinked. He had expected thanks, perhaps. A simple assurance that he would be escorted safely back to human territory. He had not expected a command that felt unmistakably binding. Two guards approached him. They did not raise weapons, but their posture made it clear there was no room for argument. Rowan followed without resistance. He understood diplomacy well enough. Resisting would only sow distrust. The journey to the citadel took several hours on foot. The path wound through ravines, across stone bridges, and beneath towering mineral spires that glimmered with natural bioluminescence. A Verith guarded their queen and her daughter closely. Rowan walked behind them, able to observe the land but not wander. As they ascended a ridge, the valley below stretched outward in a breathtaking display of alien beauty. Rivers of luminous water wound through fields of glowing flora. Creatures glided across the sky, leaving trails of light behind their wings. Lyra walked with her daughter, resting against her shoulder. At one point, the girl looked back at Rowan and offered a small, hesitant wave. He returned the gesture. It seemed to reassure her. Lyra noticed, but said nothing. When they reached the citadel, Rowan found himself staring at an architectural masterpiece. It rose from the mountain as though grown rather than built. Spires intertwined like branches. Walkways spiraled upward. Halls carved from iridescent stone opened into grand chambers lit by floating orbs of bioluminescence. The guards led Rowan to an inner hall where the queen dismissed them. She ordered only one guard, a silent figure named Wren, to remain at her side. Rowan stood in the center of the hall while Lyra studied him with focused intensity. "You saved the heir of my line," she said. "There is no gift that can equal such an act. Our traditions bind me to repay this. The debt is now mine." Rowan shifted slightly. "There is no debt to repay. Any decent person would have done the same." "Not among our people," Lyra replied. "Not among yours. Fear divides our worlds. Yet you stepped forward." Rowan did not know how to respond. Lyra approached him with slow steps until she stood only at arm's length away. Her eyes were bright green like her daughter's, but steadier, stronger. She observed him with a calm that carried weight. "You will remain in my citadel for a time," she said. "I wish to understand the kind of human who would do this. And more than that, my daughter will not rest unless you are near." She has spoken of nothing else. Rowan felt a mix of confusion and caution. "Your Majesty, I cannot impose upon your home." "This is no imposition," Lyra answered. "This is my decision. My people will see that the human who saved the air is under my protection." Rowan realized then that refusal was impossible. Not because she forced him, but because her tone carried an assurance beyond politics. She was certain that this was right. Over the following days, Rowan was given a chamber overlooking the glowing forests. The room was spacious and crafted from polished stone that shifted colors with the light. He was given food prepared specifically for human biology. Wren escorted him through the citadel whenever he left the chamber. Rowan never felt imprisoned. He felt watched but not threatened. Vareth guards monitored him from a distance, but with an odd sense of respect. Queen Lyra visited him often. At first her questions came as formal inquiries. She asked about human traditions, about military codes, about what compelled him to take risks. Rowan answered honestly. Over time her questions softened. She spoke not as a queen, but as a mother who had feared the unimaginable. Rowan soon noticed how deeply she cared for her daughter. Every gesture of comfort she offered the child revealed more about her than any official decree. The young heir, named Lyri, visited Rowan as well. At first she kept close to her mother's side, but as days passed she approached him with growing trust. She would ask him about human stories, about earth creatures, about why humans smiled so easily. Rowan answered each question with gentle clarity. Lyri soon began greeting him each morning with enthusiasm. The queen watched these interactions with a quiet expression Rowan struggled to interpret. One evening, Lyra summoned him to a high balcony overlooking the valley. The sky was dark, lit only by glowing rivers and drifting lights afar.